I remember quite a few years ago, actually, I was working with a shelter dog that had been in the shelter way, way too long. And she was staying with us for a while, actually, honestly, as a way to just get her out of the shelter system in a new environment. But I was working with her, trying to get her to be a little bit less, pulley on the leash, a little less jumpy, a little less, well, honestly, just a little less. She was a lot. She was a lot of dog. Um, and I remember I had been working like a bit, going through all of the typical things, like trying to get her to not pull on the leash, trying to get her to, stay calm, all of the things. And it wasn't working. And I was just getting to the point where, oh gosh, I literally, every time I had to work with her, like I'd be like, oh, I guess I should go out and work with Lexi. And I remember getting to a point where I'm like, nothing is working. Like, we're just day in and day out doing the same things, and it doesn't seem to make any difference. And I reached out to my mentor, Nelson, and sort of sent him the information. Like, these are all the things that I'm doing. And one of the things that he said to me that changed my life, to be honest with you, and really sort of put things in perspective for me, is he said, Tracy, you have to like the dog that you're working with. Um, in particular, he said, you have to like the dog that just bit you. And I'm like, she didn't bite me. Like, for the record, Lexi wasn't a biter, but he basically said he was going to give me the exact same advice he gives to, people that are working with dogs that have bit them, or trainers that are working with dogs that have bit them, is you have to like the dog that bit you. And he said, I don't think it's any different here for you and Lexi. I think you're going in with almost contempt in your heart that you have to work with this dog. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's true. So he told me to take a piece of paper and write on a piece of paper, I will not let Lexi's, what was it? I will not let Lexi's behavior affect my behavior. Oh, and I did it. I actually wrote that out on a piece of paper and I put it on her suite and I stuck it there so that every single time I walked up to that suite, I looked at that piece of paper, I read it out loud. I will not let Lexi's behavior, affect or ultimately control my behavior. And that's what started to turn things around. So I wanted to share with you today here on the podcast 5 things that may be blocking your confidence, your dog's confidence, and weakening your bond with your dog. That sounds like a great topic. It is a great topic. Let's get into it. Are you worried that your fearful dog may hurt someone or something else? Do you have to prepare just to take a walk around the block? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I too had that dog. The one that you could only walk at nighttime when no one else was around. And I felt ashamed, and oh gosh, I wish that people could just see the dog that I know and love. I wanted the confidence to be able to walk my dog and not have to worry about who or what was around the corner. And I kept telling myself that if I just keep doing obedience drills and distracting with treats, that things would get better. Until I found the secret. Fear is not something that you can train out of a dog. In this podcast, you will find tips to help build your dog's confidence naturally, communication and understanding to foster that trust, and how to address those fear-based behaviors effectively so that you can enjoy a stress-free life with your dog. So if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners, grab your notebook, and let's get to it. Well, hello there, my dog-loving friend. Welcome to Beyond Obedience. I'm so glad that you are here. Thank you for showing up every week to join me here discussing dog stuff. I love chatting dogs and I love hanging out with my dog friends. So thank you very much for being here. I wanted to sort of, break this podcast episode down into, 5 things that kind of speak to me when it comes to what might be blocking blocking your confidence, your dog's confidence, what might be blocking your progression if you're working with your fearful dog? Is there something that's sort of standing in the way? And there were some things that I thought I'm going to write down some ideas. What sort of speaks to me when we're talking about this kind of thing? And that's where I came up with the 5 things that may be blocking your confidence and weakening your bond with your dog. So I started off with it like, 5 things that might be ruining your relationship with your dog. And then I was like, well, that's harsh, Tracy. Like, that's harsh. Why are you coming in so harsh like that? And I thought it's not really what this is about. These are things that may seem at the surface like a little, maybe to some it might be like, well, duh. To others it might be, I didn't think that might be actually affecting everything else. So I wanted to share them with you today. Let's just get into it, shall we? Let's just get into it. All right. So the very first thing that I thought of was the idea of pulling on the leash. If you have a relationship with your dog where they're constantly pulling on the leash, they're kind of going out, they're doing their own thing, they're completely disregarding you as someone in this event with them, they're just doing their own thing, they're hunting, seeking, searching, doing all of that sort of stuff, then we have something that may be blocking your bond with your dog. Let's keep in mind that the walk itself is probably, the most fun your dog's had all day. In most dogs' cases, let me just put that out there. For a lot of you, and I know like my people are like into the dog stuff, like you're in it, right? You're doing the fun things like rallyo, maybe you're doing some agility, maybe you're doing some, like for me, I took my dog to like ratting, barn hunt and all of that stuff. So if you're like me, you like to sort of, get and do there. But for a lot of dogs, they might be stuck in the house for a portion of the day or just going into their backyard. So when they go out for their walk, it's one of the most exciting things. It's their chance to go check their pee mail. They're going out, finding out what's going on out there. And we want to make sure that we're actually a part of that. We want to make sure that our dogs are not only going out there going, this is the best time of my life. And also I have to drag this human with me. We want to make sure that the dogs are like, this is the best time of my life. And look at how much fun we are having. And we can certainly work towards a relationship where our dog wants to be with us, right? Whenever I talk about, leash pulling and whatnot, I'm going to put this out there. There are lots of techniques out there to teach your dog the obedience of walking with you on a leash, okay? There are lots of techniques for that. That's not actually what I'm talking about. I mean, you can Google those things if you want to. But what I'm talking about instead is this idea that even, and maybe it's even dogs that aren't necessarily pulling on the leash, but they're just not engaging with you. Maybe you've gotten to a point where the dog doesn't really pull, but the dog isn't really paying attention to you, isn't coming back to you and being like, look at this thing that I found, or hey, check this thing out over here, right? That's actually what I'm talking about. Sure, we can do techniques and we can teach our dog the obedience of walking at a heel, but that's an obedience command. And we don't want to keep our dogs in obedience commands for the entire walk. Wow, that would be boring. Wait, that would be boring. Right? That's boring for your dog. So yes, sometimes during the walk, there's going to be some, you have to stay with me, but a lot of times in the walk, you're not. But I want to make sure that not just that the dog isn't pulling, but the dog is actually like, wants me to be there. Please want me to be there. That's my goal. So when we start to actually look at that and be like, hey, is my dog interested? If your dog isn't, if your dog currently right now is like, I don't care if you're here or not, right? Then we can start to change that. How can I be more engaging on the walk so that my dog is turning around and going, hey, let's do this thing together? That's the first one. The second one was not training your dog. And people are going to go, wait a second, Tracy, you're not about the obedience, you're about the beyond obedience. True. True. You know me so well. But I'm not talking about the obedience of it. I'm not talking about teaching, some language like, sit, stay down, come. I'm actually talking about how training time, to quote my good friend Karen Laws, the Ontario dog trainer, training time is all the time. Every interaction that you have with your dog is an opportunity to train your dog. Or I like to say it's an opportunity to improve your communication with your dog, right? So it's the importance of, reinforcing some positive behavior through body language and communication, discussing, being mindful every day of moments that you have that, are a chance to strengthen your bond. That's what we're talking about. And then 3, this kind of leads into the same thing, but I think where I see a lot of people going wrong and maybe losing opportunities to strengthen their bond with their dog is this lack of balance between yes and no during the day. I like to talk about sort of agreements and disagreements, or yeses versus nos in the dog's world. I am not a person that believes that your dog should live in a world of yes. That's silly and unrealistic, if you want my opinion. But what I do want you to do is not only be aware of the balance of it, but actually start to just even be aware of how many yeses and how many nos you have in the day. I will say, generally speaking, either way will hinder your relationship with your dog. Meaning, if you have way too many yeses and not enough nos, that's going to hinder your dog's relationship with you. It really is. You think it's not, because you're like, I'm going to be my dog's best friend, and they're never going to. No, it's going to hinder. It's going to, especially if you have a fearful dog. Remember, your fearful dog needs to know that you have what it takes to see threats and to know what's going on. And if you're living in a world of yes, you're not actually portraying that you're actually seeing the world through the dog's perspective. But the other side of that, and this can happen quite often too, for us who are working with a dog, let's say, I hate saying the word trying to fix a behavior because the dog's not broken, but we could try to alter a behavior for sure. But for those of us that are currently working on that, where we've been like, okay, I got to try to really help the dog with this, we focus a lot on the fixing of the dog, and that can kind of lead us into a lot of no's, right? And the dog might live in the world of no. And we don't want that either. So we don't want the dog living in a world of yes. That's fantasy land. We don't want the dog living in the world of no, because that is going to crush their spirit and not, it's just going to make a negative experience for everybody. We want to have a balance of that. So for those that are working on something, let's say they are working on reactivity, and there's throughout that walk, there's a couple of times where we have to be like, nope, you can't do that, buddy, or nope, we have to ignore that dog. We just want to make sure we find ways to find yeses in their day. Where are the yeses in their day? There's lots of times. I mean, I've done this before. I'll do it right now. Right now, look at your dog. What's your dog doing right now? If I look at my dogs right now, Rue's over on the couch sleeping. Oh my gosh, she's sleeping with her little head tucked in between her paws. That's adorable. Let me take a picture. Wait. Oh, shoot. Why is it as soon as I say I'm going to take a picture, she moves? There we go. Putting that in the newsletter. And here, I'll show you Dakota. I'll flip this around. I'll show you Dakota. There she is. I should smile. There you go. Now you guys have to go and make sure that you're on the email list so you get the newsletter, because you'll see I have no eyebrows right now. It's what I look like when I do podcasting. Anyway, my whole point is right now my dogs are being very good. Now, I'm not going to wake them up to tell them that they're a good dog, but I might, when we go to leave after we're done doing this episode, we might have a little hug and just be a lot of yes for that, because you've been an awesome dog right there. So finding ways to balance that out. And not being afraid to use no. And no doesn't have to be no. No could just be nope, try again. Right? That's it. It doesn't have to be that black and white. All right, number 4. This is a big one. Lack of accountability. We were talking about this actually this week in the Fearful Dog Fearless Framework community. We were talking about this. In particular, to set the stage for you, I was talking to people that are struggling with window reactivity, where the dog is barking at the window and they're doing my tip about going to the window, looking out, saying thank you, and then asking the dog to do something else. We were talking about accountability and the follow through and what it is that we're actually asking. So in a lot of cases, for this example, if you have a dog that is, say, reactive at the window and they're barking at the window, they're going all bananas, and you go up to them and you say, hey, what are we looking at? Okay, thank you. That's just the neighbor Bill. And then we're going to ask the dog to do something else. We're going to move into that space. I am a pointer and a snapper, so I will point and snap and be like, you go over there now. And I need to wait until my dog completely disengages from the event. So lots of times what people will do is they'll ask the dog to leave. The dog just backs up a few steps. And then as soon as we remove ourselves or we take the pressure off, the dog goes right back to the window and starts barking again. So it's this idea of follow through and accountability, that when I ask you to do something, I actually need you to do it, and all the way through, right? Like not part way through, but actually all the way through to the end. I need you to actually complete the task. And we need to think to ourselves, what happens if the dog doesn't do it? What are we going to do if the dog doesn't do it, right? In training techniques, we would make sure, like if we were teaching an obedience about that, we would want to make sure there was follow-up for stuff like that. Let's go back to our days of training recall, where we've got the dog on a long line and we say come and they don't come. We might give them a little bit of light guidance and pressure with our leash to say, nope, you actually have to come. That's because I asked you to, and that's important. Because here in Humansville, we have some rules. Here in Humansville, we have cars that are speeding down the road that will not stop if they, not necessarily stop if they see you dash out in front of them. Like, there's reasons for that. And so we want to make sure that we are okay with our accountability, that we are okay with the consequences. Like, do we have follow up and follow through when we ask a dog to do something? That's why, for the record, if anyone doesn't know this about me, that's why if you ever see any of my videos, I very rarely, unless I need my dog, I very rarely tell my dogs to come. Like, I very rarely use the word come. I'll call their name, or I'll say come here or here. But I very rarely use the word come. And the reason for that is because if I say that word and they don't come when they're called, that means I have to go get them. Ugh, right? And unless it is like an emergency where I need them to come right away, which very rarely in my life is that the case, because I'm usually walking on my property, nowhere near the road, that sort of thing. But I know that I don't feel like going and getting them if they're not going to come when they're called. So I want to make sure that I don't use that word, because I know if I say come and you don't come, and I'm like, I'm going to have to go get you. If I don't have a reinforcer like a leash on you or something that I can grab and actually say, nope, you have to come. But there has to be accountability for that, right? There has to be some sort of accountability for your dog. If there isn't, they'll just be like, nothing happens if I don't. So what's in it for me? Nothing. I'm out of here. Right? So that's important. And then finally, number 5, and this is a good one. We've been talking a lot about this too, in the Fearful Dog Fearless Framework community. Talking too much. Let's just leave it like that. Talking too much. We're talking too much. Right? But I'm going to give you an out for this, right? So the bottom line is we do talk too much to our dogs. There's a lot of gibberish going on in our communication with our dogs. And hey, I am not judging. I am a talker. Do I talk to my dogs? Absolutely. I talk to my dogs. I say sweet nothings in their ears. I hug their sweet faces and whisper how much I love them. That's a thing that happens every day, all the day, all time. That's what happens, okay? What I'm referring to is the unnecessary talking when we're actually trying to communicate to our dogs. and we talk too much. This can be in the form of repeating ourselves, repeating commands, saying things that aren't necessary to the dog. We want to keep in mind that the verbal language is really just for us. We do, and that's what obedience is, right? It's giving dogs English as a second language, and I believe in obedience. I believe your dog should have basic commands, and you guys should have a shared language with one another. I 100% believe that. But what I also believe to be true is that you also need to be using your nonverbal communication, because that's speaking dog. Right? If we were to put as much energy and effort into teaching our dogs to understand us as we do for us understanding the dog, can you imagine how crystal clear our communication was? Even if we took a fraction of that responsibility off the dog. In a lot of cases, we have this expectation that the dog should learn our language and our language alone. They should tolerate our way of giving affection. They should tolerate all of the things human, but we don't give them even a fraction of that back in understanding them. And one of the things that we are working on sort of this week in the Fearless Framework is we're talking about basically just that. Like, let's get to know our dogs. What is it that our dogs like to do? What energy overwhelms our dog? What energies does our dog like? What body language works to, move my dog? What kind of massage? All of that stuff. We're really working hard on what's the dog need from us as far as communication goes. So you can still talk to your dog, right? I call it you can have your cake and eat it too. Just be able to understand that your nonverbal communication, your body language, your energy, your intent, all of that stuff should also be something that we are working on. Because here's the rub of it. Your dog is reading those things, right? Your dog's already reading those things. Your dog's already reading your body language and whatnot. We want to just make sure that we're doing it intentionally in a way that fosters great communication between us and our dogs. So there you go. Those are my 5 points. Kind of rambling points, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I wrote them down. They're kind of rambling points. Let's go over those again. 5 things. Pulling on leash. Can we be somebody worth following? Can we, in our walks, can we strengthen our bond by being more engaging, more interesting? Beyond the food pouch, I mean, we can use food, but I like to try to be creative with that kind of stuff. But beyond the food pouch, can I create a relationship with my dog where they leave the house all excited because they're going out to explore, do the most favorite thing in the world, and they want you there? They're not just pulling you around and you're just like, begrudgingly walking behind them. That was number 1. Number 2, not training your dog, and training time is all the time. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, your dog is learning about you. You have an opportunity throughout the day to practice that communication that we talk about in number 5, but you have that opportunity to do that all day. How does my energy, how am I showing up? What is my communication? What am I saying to my dog? You have that all day, every day. The number 3 was the lack of balance between yes and no. We don't want to live in a world of all yeses. That's silly. And we also don't want to live in a world of no. So can we balance that out? If we're working on something, we've had a few no's, that's no big deal, but we're just going to work actively to find some yeses. Look at your dog right now. Tell me what they're doing. Are they being good? If they are, tell them so. You're a good dog. You're just hanging out with me. Good dog. Good job. That's a good yes. A yes for nothing. A yes just for being awesome. Those are amazing. Number 4 is accountability and follow through. There has to be accountability for those actions. So when you do have to say something to your dog, like, I need you to do this behavior, is there accountability? Is there follow through? Are you comfortable with that follow through? You have to be comfortable with it, because that's part of leading and guiding your dog through Humansville. And then finally, number 5 was stop talking too much. But if you're talking, talk, speak your dog's language. There you go. 5 things that just came to me in a dream. No. Anyway, That's it for today. If you are someone who's interested in learning more about that, make sure you hop on over to beyondobedience.ca, um, and sign up for the newsletter. Let's be pen pals. That's a good way to stay connected. If you're someone that is interested in jumping into our community, diving a little bit deeper into these things, the new program, the Fearful Dog Fearless Framework, is now available. You can hop in there if that speaks to you. Follow me on the socials, be part of the free Facebook group, all of that stuff. Let's keep this conversation going. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give me a rating and review on Apple. It really does help this podcast reach more people and dog lovers like you and I. And as always, get out there today and be the person your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks you're amazing. And so do I. Have a great week. I'll see you on Thursday. Oh my gosh, I'm still getting used to that. I'll see you on Thursday. Have a great few days, and I'll see you later. Bye for now. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only and should not replace hands-on professional training. If you are really struggling with your dog's behavior, please reach out to a professional in your area. All right, I think that's it. Bye for now.